Hello, my name is Vitosh, and today in Vitosh Academy Live Coding I will show how to get started with Entity Frame Core in ASP.NET MVC following the tutorial from Microsoft.com. So pretty much we would create ASP.NET Core MVC web app, we will set up the site style, we will learn about Entity Framework Core in NuGet packages. Actually not that much, but we will create the data model, create the database context, register the context for the dependency injection, initialize the database with the test data, create a controller and views, and view the database. So let's start. So opening Visual Studio, File, New Project, File, New Project, and in the new project we select language C#, platform Linux, and ASP.NET Core web application. Click on next, and the name of our web application would be Contoso University. Click create, and we need to select model view controller, web application model view controller, net core, ASP.NET, no authentication, configure for HTTPS is checked, enable Docker support is not checked, and we click create, and we wait for our solution to be created. It is created. What do we get? We get 3 folders: controllers, models, and views. In the views we have home, we have shared, and in the shared folder we have cookie, consent, we have layout, and we have validation scripts. Furthermore, we have program CS class and startup CS class. So let's do something in the layout file. In the layout file we would split Contoso University as space. Actually, it's a good idea to write University and not University Z. I mean, I'm with a German keyboard sometimes, and it switches the Z and Y, so the Z and the Y, but this is something that is okay to live with like this. Let's say Contoso University. Okay, so furthermore we need to add menu entries for about students, courses, and instructors and departments, and we will delete the privacy menu entry that we actually do not have it here, which is kind of okay. So let's the only one that would leave is actually the home. So we take these two, we delete them, and we start Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V, and we would enter the ones for about students, courses, instructors, and departments. So this one would be about, the first one would be home, then we write here about, and it would be also here about, Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V. The next one would be for students, index, and here it would be students, Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V, courses, instructors, and departments are the next ones. Instructors, departments, and yeah, so far so good. Let's go to the home index, views home index, to the web page that is going to be loaded whenever we start our application, and simply delete everything, almost everything that we have there. Leave the view data title homepage, and let's write some interesting stuff there. So div class equals jumbotron, and some header Contoso University, which is okay. And now some row, div class actually row. If you are wondering what the B here stands for, it means bootstrap, and because we are using Bootstrap. Actually, from Visual Studio, we're using the library which is installed here in www.root lib bootstrap distributions, and we have CSS, fonts, and JavaScript. So quickly, class row. The row would be divided into 3 different columns. Each column would be equal. So in general, consider that all the columns, they have the length of MD12. So whenever we write MD4, it would be equal to 2 to 1/3 of the whole idea. So MD4 is 1/3. If we wrote MD10, it would be around 10/12. But so far 1/3 is okay. And we will here write some H2. Welcome to Contoso University. And some text which would be, this is the website for Contoso University. Yeah. Now let's copy this and write 3 times. It would be not welcome to the Contoso University, welcome to the, let's write you may learn VBA here. And VBA is a great language. And for example, you may learn, VBA is not a macro. Thank you for following this video. Alright, so far so good. We have something, and that's quite okay. So let's start creating the model. How do we create the model? In the models folder, we simply go and we create a class. So there are plenty of ways to create a class. The easiest one is to go here, add new item, class, and the class would be called student. So this class later would be translated to a table in our database. As far as it would be translated into a table, this table needs some columns. And column number 1 for a database table is called usually ID. Column number 2 in our case would be last name. Column number 3 would be first mid name. Next column would be date time, type enrollment date. And next would be iCollection, enrollment, enrollments. So the idea of the enrollment collection is for every student to know to how many enrollments has the student enlisted to what kind of courses. Okay, enrollment is in red. It means that we don't have a class enrollment, so we can create one by clicking on Control and dot, for example, and here we can say generate type enrollment, generate class enrollment in new file. This is a good way. So this is our enrollment class, and this is our student class. Okay, Control and dot here to clean a bit the stuff, and let's see what do we get in the enrollment class. In the enrollment class, we need the enrollment ID, of course. After all, this is a table, and every table needs an ID. Course ID, student ID, some grade actually, which could be also a null if it is not finished, for example. And in order to indicate that the value could be also a null, we put this kind of question mark here. This means that it is also nullable. Also a course cannot be null, and student. Okay, course and student are highlighted. So the course and grade are highlighted. The grade would be an enum, so to say, and we would put our enum here. Yeah, it is independent on the class, but it is in the namespace. Okay, the namespace would be Contoso Universe Z, or we can fix it to Contoso University and break our code. Let's put it to Contoso University and break our code. A, B, C, D, F. Okay, so course and student are still highlighted. Student is not found because student is actually in Contoso University Z. So do it Contoso University, controllers everywhere. Let's actually try to write using Contoso University Z and to replace it everywhere. In all open documents, let's say replace next, replace all. Oh, no, actually it's not everywhere. Once again, okay, Contoso University Z with Contoso University. Replace all. 3 occurrences. Not in all open documents, but in entire solution. Yes. Replace all with open all files with changes for editing. Yes. Only 4 occurrences. Interesting. Let's say go here. Contoso University models. Okay. If we have a problem with the namespace later, we know one of the possible problems. And coming to the home control, actually, just removing a bit the usings. Now back to our models. We have a model of a student, we have a model of enrollments, and we need a model of courses. So add new item class, and we write here course. And then we wait and close everything else, close all but this, save everything, and let's see what do we write here. We need an ID. We need a string title of the course. We need credits. That's okay. Public, the credits are an int. And now we need iCollection, enrollment, enrollments, and also it will be like get I said. Okay, and enrollment is not found because using Contoso University models is a must. Yeah, okay. So far so good. So let's create the database context now. Pretty much this is the main class coordinating the entity framework functionality, and this class will be deriving from the entity framework.dbContext class, and in this class we would specify pretty much which entities should be included into the data model, or with other words, which classes would be translated into SQL tables. So we need a new folder for this class. Not that we need, but it's a good idea to write one. Data, and let's call it school context. And in this school context, we would need to say it inherits from the DB context. Of course, the DB context is in red, so we press Ctrl dot and we start using stuff. first thing to build is not a property, but it is a constructor. So we write ctr twice tap, and we say public school context. In here it's from base, and also the base is with argument options, and the school context would be with argument db context options, type school context with the name options. Pretty good. So far so good. And let's specify explicitly now the three tables that would be the three classes that would be translated to tables. So the first one is dbset, and it would be type course, and it would be courses. Of course, control dot and adding the models. Contoso University. Okay, can we also change it here? Let's see. It's fun. Contoso University data, Contoso University models. Control F. Let's see whether Contoso University exists. University Z exists at all. Yeah, actually it exists. Nope, not anymore. So you see, like, starting it the wrong way, starting the project the wrong way really can be a little pain, but as far as we know what we are doing, it's okay. And as far as we know it in the beginning, it's okay. So after courses we need enrollment. And of course the student class should be translated also to a table. Okay, so something kind of important, what this enrollments is doing actually, it is facilitating the many-to-many relationship between courses and students. The many-to-many relationship means that one student can be enlisted in many courses, and one course can have many students, and this is like why this class enrollments actually exists. Okay, in general, if we use this way, then whenever we speak about like by default, the entity framework would create a table in our database named course for courses, enrollment for enrollments, and students actually, and it would be always in plural. It would be students for the student class, enrollments for the enrollment class, and courses for the course class, because this is the idea of like SQL, like it's how it is done. But let's say we can override this. Let's say we want to write the Spanish versions of these things, courses, enrollments, and students. So estudiantes, inscripciones, and cursos. So this way we have to inform the entity framework that we want to name the tables in our database differently. So what we do is we need an override, protected actually, protected override void on model creating model builder, and here we would say model builder the small one dot entity. So whenever it is course to table, the table would be cursos, and whenever it is enrollment class, the table would be inscripciones. This is how it is in Spanish. And whenever it is student estudiantes. So far so good. This is, let's say, just to show that it is possible to deviate a bit. So now, yeah, let's register the school context. Pretty much in startup, this is the place to register the context. We should somehow inform entity framework that there is a service which is registered with dependency injection from the application startup. Yeah, pretty much this dependency injection is the entity framework database context, and it is needed because this is actually quite a good practice for testing and disassembling the responsibility of different parts of the code. So long story short, we go to configure services in startup, which is here, and in configure services we write, okay, services configure, cookie policy options true, option everything is okay. So here we write additionally services dot add db context, and we say of type school context, and options, okay, options dot use SQL server, because this is what we're gonna use, configuration dot get connection string, and the connection would be called contoso connection, contoso university connection. Okay. School context is in red, so control and dot using contoso university data. Just check a bit the stuff. Okay. And use SQL server is in red, control and dot using Microsoft Entity Framework Core. Now everything is okay. Control and dot here to remove the unnecessary usings. Pretty much it looks okay. So now it is good to inform Visual Studio what does it mean contoso university connection, and the place to inform it is in the app settings JSON. So we go to app settings JSON, and here we say, hey, whenever we mean contoso university connection, we don't mean actually new, but we mean this, so to say, and actually it's even connection strings, so to say, connection strings, and in the connection strings we have a dictionary. So this dictionary means that whenever in the dictionary we mean contoso university connection, it would be this one. Let's just take a look. Yeah, okay, so far so good. And here we need to say, okay, this is the string. In the string, it is a good idea to copy it directly because we do not have any type of checkers, or like to not tell us whether we made a mistake. For example, whether we wrote twice this or 3 times. Actually it is twice just for the escaping sake of it, but doesn't matter now. I mean, in general, if in general it is once, but if it is once it is considered escaping symbol, so it should be doubled in order to escape the escaping symbol. So MSSQL localDB is our database. Then we say database equals contoso university. This will be our name of the database, and we need to put a bit more interesting data, that it is a trusted connection. and it is able to use multiple active result sets. Yep, looks okay. So let's initialize our database with some test data just to see how it would work so far. So in the data folder, we create a new file, a new class, also possible. Control Shift and A, this was what I was using, and we name it DB Initializer. So DB Initializer looks like this, and we won't leave it like this. We'll say it's a public static class DB Initializer, and this public static class would have public static void initialize school context, and we'll say context.database.ensure created. Ensure created means that if it is not created, it would be created, but it would not pass after this line without having a database. I mean, it would throw an error if something wrong happens, but if it's okay. So once the database is created, we write the following thing: if students any return. The idea here is to make sure that there are some students. If there are some students, we will simply stop initializing. It will be okay. If there are no students, we will continue with the method. So we would write an array of students, and it would look like this. For example, just press Ctrl and dot to add the Controls University models, then Ctrl and dot again to remove the useless stuff, and we will write a new student here with let's say first name, it would be Carlson, last name on the roof, enrollment date. With the enrollment date now, because we are reading it from here, just to avoid anything possible, any possible mistake, we would write date time dot parse, and we would write here 2000 as a string, and we would make sure it's year January. Okay. And now comma, it doesn't like date time because we don't have using system. Adding using system, date time comes. Okay. Let's add a few more students. Carlson, Mike, Jack, and Jill. Carlson, Mike green, Jack red, Jill purple. Enrollment date 2001, 2002. If everyone has a different enrollment date, that's great. Okay, so now is the time to add these students to the database. We do it with a loop actually. So every student is in our let's say student is student is in our collection of students, and the collection should have been like this: students. Okay, we say okay, context dot students, this is the table, in our case class, add s. Great. Next one would be courses. It would be new course here. New course of it's an array, as you see. And actually, just thinking a bit, but Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, array of list system link. So it looks like a list, but with comma it can be also an array. Yep. Anyway. Yeah. Here we would start writing the new courses. It is an array. Of course it is an array. Arrays are like this. So array of courses. Our courses would be new course. We would also specify the course ID because it is a good idea. So we start with 711 and the title of the first course would be VBA, and it would give how many credits, let's say 3. 712 VBA 102, this is advanced VBA, 4 credits. 713 VB.NET, 3 credits, and 714 would be, this would be C++. Let's leave it like this. So same stuff as above, courses, course C in our courses collection. We simply say context.courses.add and C. Okay. And now we need to bind somehow the students to the courses, and this is, as I mentioned, in the enrollments. So var enrollments, new array of enrollments, and the enrollments would be like this. Okay, new enrollment, student ID equals 1. This is the first student. Course ID would equal 711, and the grade would be equal to grade.a. Rather good. Okay, let's enroll a bit of our students. So 1, 2, 2. We'll list every student to 2 courses. Student 1 would be listed to 3 courses, so 711, 712, 713, 711, 712, 711, 712, and okay, let's give this one a B, this one a C randomly, and the rest would have no grades except for the last one, which would have a B. Yeah, so far so good. Why do we have an error here? What is something is expected? Yeah, of course it is expected. Yeah, I just forgot it. So once again, but this time like at last, for each enrollment, E in enrollment, as I said, E in our enrollments collection, simply context dot enrollments dot add. And last but not least, extremely important, probably the most important part so far, is to write context.save changes. Yes, now there should be a way pretty much to inform our program that this initialize method should be code. So we go to the program CS and we do a few things. First of all, we have to get the database context instance from the dependency injection container. Then we call the seed method, passing it to this context, and then we dispose the context when the seed method is done. The disposal is rather easy. Pretty much it is done like this, using var scope equals host.services dot create scope. So once it is done, that is disposed, that's the beautiful part of the using. We need to define the host, create web host builder, some arguments, and build. Okay, create scope is in red, control and dot to fix it. Rather good. So we continue. We write try catch exception x. So the try would be var context services dot get required services, and it is the school context. The other way is to name our database. So services control dot yeah, it's a variable that we should add. Services is equaling scope dot service provider. Rather good. And school context with a dot is fixed with this one. Okay, here we can simply leave it as a throw, but it's a bad idea. Let's write it somehow nicely. So we'll put a logger, which is services get required service, ilogger program type, and whenever we find an error, so we are here log error, and it's an exception, and then we write error during seeding the database. At the end, what we need is really important, is to go here and to write host.run, and yeah, here control and dot everything and checking. So far everything good, looks kind of okay. Yep. Now it is the interesting part, to go and to create the controllers and the views. So let's go to the controllers folder, Solution Explorer, add new scaffolded item. In the new scaffolded item, we select, of course, MVC controller with views using entity framework, add, and now we had a new window, this one. So we say we want to scaffold the student, and in the only context that we have, all the checks are perfect. Click add, and now wait while it starts installing NuGet packages and additional classes. What it would do is actually quite a lot of work. It would start creating a whole table with all the create, read, update, delete functions of the student. I mean, when I say functions, I mean views. With other words, we go to the views, students, and we have all this create, delete, details, edit, and index. All of this nicely written automatically out of the box. We will change them somewhere later. And a new controller, students controller, which actually binds the views to the model. All the views are binded, like 154 lines, but rather nicely written. So everything looks kind of okay. So let's start with our application. Let's press F5 and see what would run. So the application compiles so far okay. The build started, I mean, there would be a database created now, and the seed method will be executed, and let's see what are we going to do, what are we going to get pretty much with our work so far. Okay, so we have the Contoso University website. As I mentioned, it's divided into 3 columns, yeah, with some useless stuff. And okay, we have courses, we have instructors, we have departments. These links wouldn't function if I press them. The about link should function, the home should function, and let's see the students link. Students link is thinking a bit too much, much more than I would expect. It's interesting now. Why? Most probably this means an error, I guess. Yes, it is an error, and it is an expected error. Return view await context students to list async. This is the problem here. Okay, let's close it. And after closing it, let's research why we do not have anything in our database. And yeah, so the database is initialized from pretty much from the startup. This is how our startup looks like. Add MVC, use SQL server, get connection string. The connection string is pretty much okay. And from the program, okay, getting the host, working in the scope, services scope, service provider is okay. We get the context, and we missed something pretty much. We missed DB initializer here. Dot initialize context. This is really something that should not be missed in a database. So let's start once again, Control F5, and see this time whether we would have a database at least and a working application as a bonus. So far so good. Okay, we get this page to summarize your privacy and cookie policy. Okay, no problem. Let's say students, and we have something in the students. Okay, let's refresh it because I was expecting something there, but there are no students in the students. That's kind of strange. Except, okay, let's click here, and now we would have the database. Contoso University, tables, refresh. Okay, courses, the way we mentioned that they would be. View data, it's empty, which is kind of strange, but yeah, and view data. Okay, so now we should debug somehow a bit. So we can go to the initializer and say, okay, for example, what is interesting is to write save changes after students, for example, as it wasn't written before. Let's go once again to students and really see view data. Yeah, no. So the problem with this actually is the following. As you see, the only place where we give course ID actually, or like the ID of the table, the real one, because enrollment student ID is not the ID of the enrollment table, is here. So we need to inform somehow the SQL server that we are taking care of the course ID ourselves, because it doesn't think so. Whenever we go to the designer, it says course ID is actually identity, it starts with 1 and is incremented with 1. So it is extremely unhappy with our attempts to give course IDs ourselves. So how do we do this? How do we inform Entity Framework that we would be the one taking care of the course ID? although it is an ID and although it should be unique, etc., etc., etc. We go to models, we go to course, and we put a data annotation on the top of course ID, which is database generated, database generated option dot none. Control and dot here, and we get the data annotation schema. Control and dot to remove the models. So far so good. Let's before giving it the try, I would delete the whole database, close existing connections, and let's press F5 and take a look what would happen. Like, the database should be created from new, from a scratch. This is a luxury that we can afford ourselves when we are pretty much learning ourselves how to work with SQL Server. Otherwise, having the database like deleted and rebuild in production every time is a small disaster. So we go to students, and we have our 4 students. We can even create a new one whose name could be Joe, okay, banana Joe, and some kind of a possible enrollment date, and let's create him. And back to our list, he's here, Controls University is here. That's rather good. Let's close. Let's enter the database. First, wait some time until it refreshes. Here is our Controls University database. Here are the 3 tables. Let's see the cursos. Cursos are here. Estudiantes are also here. And inscripciones are also here. Yeah, even with some grades and news and stuff. As you see, let's see, if we go to cursos and we see the designer, we see that primary key is clustered. Down the course ID is no more primary key. It's just something that it's just a course ID is just a normal column, and this is because of our work here in the model, adding this additionally. So pretty much that's so far. So thank you for watching. Yep, have fun and enjoy yourselves. Thanks.